Hello, and welcome to The Connecting Point. I am Dr. Marcy, your facilitator for this discussion today, and this is the place where creators connect to inspire, share their ideas and stories, to transform the world through raw and unedited talk. Mm-hmm. And today I have someone here that's been here before, but I called him back for a time as this.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is Dr. Landon Lee, who is a mental health therapist.
Ma'am.
He is also, I have to tell the connecting point.
That's
if you've seen the show before, you probably know, but this is also a Morris Brown brother of mine. And he's a Phi Mu Alpha, which is a musical brother of mine. So, there's a connection here. But we came on today to address some things that we are noticing in the community, in the world, regarding mental health, and particularly around the holidays.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Lee, can you just give a little synopsis? I know you've been on here before, of the type of work that you do.
Okay. Well, yeah. Again, my name is Dr. Landon Lee. I am a mental health therapist. I'm a licensed professional therapist in the state of Georgia. Also, nationally certified therapist. Also, a supervisor of mental health therapists in training as well. So I do supervision in that regard. Approved clinical supervisor, and I have a passion about the Word of God. So I work from a faith-based perspective for individuals that carry the faith in that regard. So along with I'm the clinical director of Empowerment Counseling Group. We are a group of about 4 therapists currently that works in the local community. Our offices are housed in the Boulder Crest Church of Christ building, but we are doing a lot of virtual therapy at this point in time. But yeah, so my focus is on various populations of need. I work a lot with adult population, but I've also have worked with children. I've also worked with couples. So right now we're dealing with a lot, regardless of the population. There's a lot that's going on. So that's just a little bit about my mental health background at this point.
Well, we're going to get right on in here because, around the holidays, there's a spike, per se, of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're already dealing with a mental health issue, that just adds another layer to what's going on with you.
Absolutely.
People are, they fall into depression due to finances during this time of year, due to lost loved ones that have been there and they're no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to talk a little bit about how you're seeing things right now. What are you seeing that is going on worldwide regarding mental health?
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Marcy. So first of all, let me just kind of pull back from a global perspective, and let's just kind of get a better understanding of what everyone is dealing with, mm-hmm. and just how our biological makeup and the way things that we deal with things. Now, a lot of times we hear this word trauma tossed around, and it's a significant word, but a lot of times we don't fully understand what it is. So generally speaking, when we're talking about trauma, we're talking about a loss of connection. There's a loss of connection between family, between community, between the world at large. And so therefore, we're looking at the fact that a large percentage of society deals with trauma, and at various degrees, but there's a large percentage that deal with trauma. And so I'm going to talk a little science. Hopefully I don't get too boring with that. But when we're dealing with our biological makeup, one thing that we work with is what we call our autonomic nervous system. And when we're looking at the autonomic nervous system, you're looking at two primary components, one being the sympathetic nervous system, and then the other being the parasympathetic nervous system. So that kind of makes up and the autonomic part kind of helps us understand, if you want to reflect it like automatic, these are certain things that happen that we don't really have control of. It's a response. And so when we talk about the sympathetic, you're talking about the person that may be very hyperactive. Something's happened, they're activated, they're very hyperactive, and they're responding. You maybe say they're in panic mode, they're in manic mode, they may be in certain things that are happening in that regard. So when you're looking at that type of thing, then you have to address that type of stress and anxiety in such a way where you are bringing them back online. They're offline. So you become the online as a therapist person for them. You help become calm. Instead of they're being up here, you're being calm. You're helping to bring them back online. The other is what we call the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic is the opposite. It's where you go to shutdown mode. You go into a very, very numbness. It's like you're just kind of immobilized. And what you have to do, that's what we call a bottom-up approach. The other was a top-down, but bottom-up, you just kind of start where that person is. And you just let them simply kind of move. Even in therapy, sometimes it's just like, can you move your fingers? Can you move your hand? Can you do anything? And then slowly let that person come back online. So I describe those two to help us understand that regardless of who we are, we may go through some circumstances that may pull us one way or the other. And a lot of things that causes that, it goes back to whatever level of attachment that we may have grown up with, as a child. There's 4 primary attachment styles, one being secure attachment, which we all ascribe to. That's what we want. But then there is what we call ambivalent attachment. There is avoidant attachment, and then there's disorganized. I won't go into details right now, each one of those, unless time allows us to later on. But those other 3 outside of the secure attachment are what we call insecure attachments. And then, believe it or not, what happens from that development as a child kind of spurns into our adulthood. You will find some similarities as to how you were attached as a child and how we operate as an adult. So I'll lay that background to say, when we're talking about what's going on in the world, in this world of COVID, in this world of loss, in this world of a lot of things that we're doing, in particular, when we're talking about children, there is a concept called the ACE study that was done by Kaiser Permanente. And the ACE study ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And through the ACE study, it has become known that adverse childhood experiences deal with a lot of the health problems we have, a lot of the behavior problems we have, a lot of the emotional problems that we have just from adverse childhood experiences. Now, this study was done across populations, but of course, when we look at people of color, we are the ones that's most impacted by adverse childhood experiences. Well, what are adverse childhood experiences? Adverse childhood experiences has a gamut. Some of them include violence. The other include various forms of abuse. We all can relate to children being around violent activities and being involved in violent activities, various levels of abuse, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional. But then another component of adverse childhood experience is neglect. And neglect is a big one, because a lot of times when we think about abuse, if we think about violence, we think about environment, many times we may look at adverse populations, we may look at people in inner city places and things of that nature. But when you look at the big picture, neglect happens anywhere. Neglect can happen any of them can happen anywhere. But I like to target in on this neglect because many times, especially in single parents' homes, you're busy. You're in a situation where you're trying to raise a family, you're trying to do various things. And so, in that regard, you are put in positions where you find yourself, um, trying to, some are going to school at the same time as they're working, and you're telling your kids, okay, go over here and do your homework, or go over here and do this or do that. And you're not being able to nurture that child as well as you could otherwise. So, with all that being said, what I'm seeing is when I see children come, when I see adults come, it all falls back to that childhood experience. It all goes back to whatever it is that they dealt with as a child and still struggling through in their professions, in their school life, and whatever it is. Those are some of the things that are happening, that just in general, of what I'm seeing when I run across my clientele at this time.
And I when I was listening to you talk about trauma and where it stems from, it makes me also think about how many adults are dealing with rejection, and how to deal with rejection and covering it up. So often I walk in a room and can see there might be an adult there that really feels rejected.
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do to pull them out immediately.
Right.
And sometimes they don't even know that they're dealing with some type of rejection that they felt as a child.
Absolutely.
So how do you even address that? Because I am seeing that so often, even in the workplace, in families of, you're wondering, why is this person like this? Why do they keep self-sabotaging? Why are they doing others like this? But it roots back to rejection as a child.
Yeah, absolutely. So good question. So again, that goes back to some of the attachment things that I was talking about. So I'm just going to take one level of attachment. I'll just pick one. I'll just say ambivalent attachment. So what happens with ambivalent attachment is that as a child, that person may be in a circumstance or situation where there's a caregiver that they have, a mother or father or whomever take care of them. And at a point in time, if they are out having fun, playing around and having a good time, and if they harm themselves in some way, they get hurt, scratch a knee or whatever the case may be, and they run to that caregiver, and that caregiver takes care of them. They scrape the knee off, they put a Band-Aid on it, they kiss the knee, ask them if they feel better, then they feel good about it, they go on about their business and continue to play. But the next time they scratch their knee, this time the caregiver may say, well, what do you do? What did you do? Why were you over there? I told you to sit down. I've told you all these different things. You shouldn't have been doing this. You shouldn't have been doing that. Go in timeout. So they're punished for reporting their harm or their hurt. And so what happens, the ambivalent piece is that, okay, how do I respond to my caregiver now? Do I go and tell them I'm hurt? Will they yell at me or will they take care of me? So at this point, the child has learned a behavior. They're learning to cater to the caregiver, cater to whatever it is that I want. How do I want to present myself in order to get my needs met? So that transitions into adulthood, into adult relationships. So instead of me being transparent with my mate or with the person I'm in a relationship with my coworker, with my boss, I know the results that I want. So now I find myself trying to acquiesce to whatever it is that I want them to do in order for me to get the results that I want. So it's that type of thing. And the same thing happened with avoidant attachment. It's a little bit different. That may be even in kind to what you're saying when you're having someone that's dealing with rejection, because in avoidant attachment, as a child, that caregiver does not spend a lot of time with that child. They're basically, that's the child that's a loner. They're by themselves. They kind of take care of themselves, because whenever they go to the caregiver just don't have time for them. That's where that neglect piece comes in. They may be too busy or whatever. And so therefore, as an adult, when you're seeing them in school, you're seeing them in whatever, it's like, I don't feel comfortable in believing that these folks around here care about me. I don't feel that they're going to give, I'm worthy of someone else's time. So I'm going to walk in the room with that assumption. I'm going to operate based upon that assumption. And I'm not going to give in to the person that is trying to help me, because I feel that it may be too painful. There's a wound that's happening here, and I don't want to open up with it. But to answer your question, how do we address that? The biggest element of addressing, and of course, therapy is one approach, if a person is open to that. But just generally speaking, when you run across that, it's about compassion. It's about compassion. It's about caring, and it's about patience. Because as I said, in these situations, people aren't going to automatically open up. They're not going to feel safe. You're not going to be a safe space. So it's about relationship building, because what happens is a lot of folks that go through this, they may be a certain way to the general public. But if they get to know you well and they establish a rapport with you, they may show another side of themselves to you and to the people that they have developed this rapport with. And then over time, if they're able to feel comfortable in that environment, say, for instance, like at a school where there's teachers, it may be, okay, we're in a teacher's lounge and we developed a lot of, a rapport with each other, and we have fun with each other and a lot of different things. So that person can relax a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so they may be more open to that. So the whole point is really about relationship building and connection. It's all about connection. And that's what you're doing here. So that's exactly where it is. It's about building those connections with folks and showing that you care, because the issue is that person does not trust that you really, really care about them. They may frame your concern as not being trustworthy, that you're just trying to get in my business, you're just this. There are a lot of different frameworks they may create, but once you establish the trust, and trust takes time, and you have to be patient. Sometimes we give up. Well, you're gonna be that way, you stay over there by yourself, and that's the last thing they need. But they'll acquiesce to what you say.
Well, let me ask you this: would you say that rejection is connected to depression?
What I would say is, I would say yes. But see, rejection can be manifest in different ways. Mm-hmm. Depression can be one way. Sometimes people overcompensate. Sometimes, rejection can be manifested in someone as being very, very outspoken, over the top, whatever. A lot of things that people can do because they're trying to overcompensate for any shortcomings they have. But in regards to depression, there's a lot of byproducts of depression. So I'll put it that way. I say rejection can be related to depression, but depression can have a lot of different byproducts that are connected with it. Because in depression, when you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with a shutdown of your general activities. A lot of times, now that's not always true. A lot of times people are going through depression and you can't even necessarily tell. They may be still the upbeat, smiling, a lot of different things that's going on. So it's complicated, but to answer the question, absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily say that rejection causes depression, but it can exacerbate the depression. If you're already dealing with it and you're trying to open up with someone, you're trying to connect with someone, and you're being and you're not feeling the connection, it can feed into the loneliness, the separation, the isolation that you feel, and so that's why that is very important. And some of the simplest things. So, for instance, you may be in a place, and a person may say, "Dr. Marcy, can I talk to you right for a minute?" And you say, "Well, we're not right now. I'm doing something, but I'll talk to you in just a few minutes." And then you go ahead and finish up what you're working on. You got to remember
To
to go back to that person, because it's easy to forget. And that's just like prayers. Like, for instance, many times people will say, "Pray for me," or you may tell a person, "I'm going to pray for you," and you really mean it with all your heart. But many times we move on and we forget. We move on with life and we forget. So sometimes the way you get through that is by stopping
and doing
in
it
the
right.
moment. Let's pray right now.
Yeah.
Let's pray right now. Let's do this right now. And so many times a better response when a person is asking for your attention is like just saying, "Okay, well, I'm on my way so and so, but tell me, what is it that you need?" And then they tell you something, and you may give them a 30-second response. "You know what? This is, but I'll tell you what, I want you to call me this afternoon, and so we can continue this conversation." That's empowering them. So you don't always necessarily have to remember yourself,
Right.
but you're empowering them. You're giving them your number, you're giving them your contact to reach back out to you. And you may do the same thing if you can remember, but at least you created a system that is better of fulfilling and moving forward with that. So yeah, I think that's how a little bit how the connection works.
And what really bothers me about depression is what you just mentioned. Sometimes you can't even tell
Yeah.
if the person is going through something. And I know you've heard about Twitch, Ellen's DJ on her show recently. And everyone's wondering, this was a happy-go-lucky guy, had a beautiful family. Some people don't even believe he committed suicide.
Yeah.
But it is possible for somebody to be walking around looking perfectly fine, talking fine, joking, and then in depression. So can you tell us what could we look for? What could we look for to identify?
A couple of things about that. Number one, absolutely, someone certainly can be depressed and going through a lot, and they're masking their emotions, they're masking their feelings. A lot of things are that case, and there's a lot of examples. The one you just gave, and also Robin Williams. The one of the most humorous comedians ever, but he ended up taking his life. Before I dive too far into that part of it, as far as what it looks like, also understand this: that when you're talking about taking your life, or someone taking their life, there's a lot of risk factors that are connected with someone getting to the point of taking their life. Most of the time, we think that it's primarily, or we may assume that that person was just depressed. Depression is only one risk factor. There are various risk factors that may be involved with someone taking their life. One being really the fact that if there is other folks in their life that they know of that have actually taken their life before. That's a risk factor when you're dealing with, when you know people in your personal life that's involved in that regard. Substance abuse is a risk factor, because substance abuse basically helps you, put you in a more vulnerable state. It puts you in a more vulnerable state to actually address whatever issues you may be going through in life. As such, you may be going through financial struggles. You may be dealing with family issues, and that's one of the larger risk factors. One of the things that I work, a lot of my work is in suicide prevention, and some of the most significant risk factors that I've seen with folks that are at a point of taking their life is relationship breakups. So when a person is in a place where they're either facing divorce after a lengthy relationship, or even sometimes it hasn't been that long, maybe less than a year. But those are because what happens is many times, what I've seen is many times folks that are going through relationship breakups, there's a lot of loss. That's a loss in and of itself. The loss, that's a loss in the fact that your relationship didn't work. But then on top of that, are some financial losses that's connected to that. Okay, I got to get an attorney. Okay, I'm going to lose half of what I own. I might not be able to have access to my children the way I'm accustomed to, or things. There's so many different pieces of the puzzle when you're dealing with relationship breakups. And so that exacerbates the anxiety, and then oftentimes what happens, that pushes you into substance use or abuse. That pushes you into drinking heavily, using drugs, doing whatever, and then that compromises your reasoning, and as such. So that puts you in a state and a place where there's a lot of things that may be happening. But when you're talking about taking your life, suicide, and depression, what happens there is that, again, when you're dealing with the weightiness of what you're going through, it's a weightiness when you're dealing with depression. You're waking up with a state of just not wanting to be here. You're waking up with not wanting to carry on the weight of the day. So we're talking about, how do we recognize and identify people that may be masking this depression? It goes back to what I said before, relationship. It goes right back to that, because what happens is, I have some friends and colleagues that I know that are just upbeat people. They're just, when you see them walking, they're gonna light up the room, and it's almost as though they're performing. They're performing, because that's just who they are. They come in, they're the life of the party as such. But when you are sitting there talking to them one-on-one, the truth comes out. The real thing, piece of it comes out. So it's about, they may still be up here for a period of time, but as you have conversations, just that, well, tell me what's happening. How you been doing? How's your mother? How's your, family? How's your kids? And they start talking about things that are happening in their life. Before you know it, they're in tears, because they are at a place where they're being vulnerable. You made it safe for them to be vulnerable and to share what's happening. So the key is, some people are very good. Some people you would never know from the outside if they're struggling at all, because it's all superficial. But when you get to a place, and I guess for me, one sign of a person is when you talk to someone and things are always all right. Oh, I'm all right. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Everything is great. Oh yeah, good. No one is ever always all right.
Always all right.
Yeah,
That's right.
someone is going through something. All of us, most of the time, are going through something at some point in time in our life. And so when you can find people that are comfortable sharing with you what's happening with them, that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about attachment. That's a securely attached person, because they can feel comfortable sharing their struggles and what's happening, and not feeling like you're going to judge them or all of that. And they can allow themselves to be vulnerable. But then once that conversation is over, they can go on about their day or about their life. But others that are not so securely attached can find it first of all, very difficult to open up and to share what's going on. And then sometimes even after they do that, it's harder for them to recover from sharing in that regard. And those are sometimes the people that you may want to refer to therapy to try to get some additional support. But yeah, so that's generally how that looks when you're looking at people and trying to help figure out, where is this person? And that's the other piece. It's not necessarily your job, quote unquote, or position to try to figure out if a person is depressed, if a person is going through something, but it's just an organic experience when you find yourself being a person that is caring, that is genuine, and that the people are yearning for that. They're yearning for genuineness and compassion. And when they find it, they organically open up. And that's kind of where society can be, is being organic and being compassionate, being a caring, being the caring person that you are, and allowing other folks to see that. Your people would be amazed at the work that you're doing, and you may not even know what you're doing. It's just the mere fact that you're taking the time to share and to care and show some support in that regard.
I was in a conversation with someone recently, and I said, I don't know one human being that hasn't had some bout of a depressive situation.
Yeah.
But the way to overcome these things is just be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I find it that I can be who I am 24/7, take it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
At least I haven't, gotten anything off my shoulders, on my chest.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you start trying to be something you're not, it's not a good thing.
No.
Because you have to lay down with yourself every day.
Yeah.
And realize, you know what, that wasn't me, and I don't feel good about it. Just be who you are.
Yeah, you have to be authentic. Now that being said, being authentic is important, but also being kind and respectful. So people can't take that out of context. You can't say it's just me and I can say whatever I want to say to people. So you have to make sure that you understand that there is boundaries that you need to operate with. If you're just a mean person, then you need to try to control that when you're around other people and be less mean. That's something that you need to work on in that regard. So let's just kind of be clear about that part of being who you are. But I think it's good to recognize who you are, because that may mean that, okay, this is something I need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But another thing that I want to mention here is having compassion and grace. Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes people act out, they're mean. We just talked about somebody being mean. There are people that are just mean to folk. But underneath that is someone totally different. Mm-hmm. I just had an experience recently, this person is mean to a lot of people. And I looked the person in their eye recently, and I saw that's just a facade.
Yeah.
This person is hurting inside. Yeah. And once God showed me that, I said, okay, well, the way to approach this person is different from lashing out back at them, because they are really a hurting individual inside. Absolutely. That meanness is kind of like a defense mechanism. Yes. That's kind of what they do to protect themselves. Another therapeutic approach that we use is called internal family systems. And in internal family systems, you deal with various parts. You know how you may say sometimes, a part of me feels this way and a part of me feels that way. Well, that's a true component. That's really our bodies and our essence is made up of various parts. And some parts of us are what we call wounds. They're wounds that we have occurred throughout life, maybe even as early as childhood and as very part of life. And those things are there. And then certain other parts that we have are called protectors. And those protectors are there because we, as a being, we know how much we can take. And so we're the protectors don't want that wound to become overwhelmed. So what happens is that it'll come in and block whatever that may be going on. So
For instance, the two dynamics of protectors are identified as either a manager or what we call a firefighter. And the manager are things that you do proactively. So you may be in a situation where, okay, well, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go earn another degree or take some classes, or I'm going to do some, some meditations. I'm going to do some things to keep me and help me because I'm hurting in the inside, but I'm going to do some proactive things to kind of keep me stabilized. But then the firefighters are more reactive. And so either way, they're both trying to protect this wound. And what happens is that when that wound is impacted, the firefighter jumps up and try to knock it out. So that protector may pop up as being a mean person. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say something mean to get you off of me so it won't hurt as much. Or it may be something that you turn around and you may turn around and utilize marijuana, or utilize alcohol, or you may turn around and you may do some cutting, or you may have some suicidal ideations, or the list goes on as to these things that you're doing to protect this wound that's there. But the ultimate goal is to get there and help try to heal that wound that's there. But yeah, so that you're right, when you're dealing with people that come and present themselves in an adverse way or a very hurtful manner, then it's like many times, most of the time, if not all the time, there's something that's going on behind that. And when you can get behind that, you're starting to make headway. But sometimes you have to be careful because you may get to that wound quicker than that person is ready.
Ready to hit it,
yeah, and they may have a complete breakdown because they're not really ready to address that wound. And but that's information. So what you find out, you want to help that person to get the help that they need. Listen, I hear you. I see where you are. I see what's going on with you. Let me help you get some help. So that's kind of how I see that.
Now, for the sake of time, I do want to address people who are going through whatever reason, whether it's finances or breakups or just feeling lonely or having someone that has passed away in their family that are no longer there. What are some things that you suggest for them to partake in during this holiday season so that they can navigate through it with their mental health intact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's a good one. And again, I think that's a very important and timely question for us to kind of address, because again, there's a lot of painful, even though the holidays are generally considered a joyous time, there's also a lot of pain that is connected to it for many people. As you mentioned, some people are suffering loss. I myself lost my father earlier this year. So we're having a unique first Christmas experience here that we're going through. Some people are dealing with loss of income, dealing with financial struggles, feeling like, okay, I want to do more for my children, but I can't. There's a lot of different things, guilt, a lot of different things. And remember, we're talking about loss. When you're talking about loss, that's wrapped up in grief. Yes. And so when you're dealing with grief, there's a myriad of emotions that come into play. So some of the things that we suggest as far as helping you deal with it is, first of all, being proactive in addressing it. Don't just allow the holidays to happen to you. Mm-hmm. You be proactive in how you want to address the holidays. For instance, for us, as for my family, we purposely decided we're going to do Christmas different. It's not going to be the same. Dad's not going to be here. So we're not going to just go through that same routine that we've done for the last 50 years. We're going to do something different. We used to go home in South Carolina and spend holiday. Well, this year, Mom's coming to us in Georgia. Mm-hmm. We're going to do it. We're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to change the timing of it. We're going to do things earlier during the day and we're going to shift some things at different family members' home and just create a different atmosphere. That's one of the things you can do when it comes to that. But also one of the things you want to do is avoid any known triggers. There's certain things that that you're sensitive to, whether it's just, a particular environment, a particular person, a particular type of things that's happening. You don't have to, don't force yourself into, if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for that. That's quite all right. So you can do that. And then just to respect, your limits, how much you can deal with, how much you're comfortable with. It's okay. But then on the bigger picture, it's about creating a comfortable environment. The day is coming. Do you want to create a situation where, number one, what is the situation? Are you alone? Are you going through, if you're going through it by yourself, then do you want to be by yourself? Do you want to, and if you do, that's fine. For instance, if it's a loss, if it's maybe a loss can come from several, a death, divorce, whatever the case may be, you may say, this year, I just want to spend some time by myself. But how do you spend that time? What are you going to do in that day? Okay, are you going to wake up? Are you going to cook breakfast? Are you going to go out for breakfast? Are you going to, look around and see what's available? Here in Atlanta, we know Waffle House always going to be open. So if you're going to have a Waffle House run, then that's great. Or you just want to take a brisk walk. You may want to take a drive. You may want to be purposeful. In other words, be in control of the day and not let the day be in control of you. So you want to have a plan. And then when it comes to maybe close friends and relatives that you've lost, how do I honor them? That's what you want to think about. You sometimes you're dreading the day because it's going to be so painful and hard. But that person has always been a part of you, and they will always be a part of you. So what you want to do is to find a way that you can honor them, whether it's visiting a gravesite, if that's something that you're comfortable with. And you have to ask yourself, am I comfortable with that? You don't have to force yourself to do anything. It may be, do I want to have a candle ceremony in my home by myself? Do I want to do what is it that I can feel that's within my scope, within my world, that I'm comfortable with doing, that I feel like I can do to bring some level of recognition and honor to that loss. So I guess to generalize it will be to prepare. It's like don't just sit there and wait for it, but make it a special type of event. Does not have to be, when I say special, it does not have to be elaborate, but something very special and personal for you and whatever your situation is. And you talked about finances being a stressor. So that can be, first of all, we have to rethink our cultural disposition about Christmas. That's one thing. That's just a sidebar we have to look at, because we all know that Christmas has become just a time of spending and retail and all of that. So for you may have to break that cycle on your own, because retailers aren't going to let us break it. They want to make their money, so we have to break it. For instance, my wife and I, we rarely even do Christmas exchange gifts. We'll say we'll deal with that later, whatever. We may do birthdays, we may do some other special day or anniversary or whatever. But the point, or we may say after Christmas, let's just go do this, or let's go do whatever, to take the pressure off of you feeling like I gotta go, buy this, buy that, and all, and it's really taking the full meaning out of what you're trying to do. So that's the first piece of addressing the cultural component of it. But as for you, embracing your reality. Your reality is that financially, I'm not able to do this and to do that. So how can I make this still a special event? I remember one year. You probably can't. Do you see? You can't see that close. You see at the very top that red and gold cap. Can you see it
Oh
on top of it?
yes. Uh-huh.
That's my Phi Mu Alpha hat that I wore when I pledged. Now, when I was online, or no, after I went over, I took that hat and I drew our crest and our shield on the hat and wrote Phi Mu Alpha on it, but I never painted it because I didn't want to mess it up. Well, I have a niece that is an artist that can paint and draw and whatever, and I asked her about painting my hat one day, and that was early. Now this has been a year ago now, but that was early in the year, and she took it and she did it and she presented it to me last Christmas.
That's
on
special.
Christmas Day.
That's
Yeah,
special.
because and the funny thing about it is she did it on Christmas Eve because we all meet and she was waiting. I typically leave early because we go back to Augusta to my wife's house and then we come back on Christmas, my wife's family's house, and we come back on Christmas Day. Well, this year I wasn't going there, so I just hung around. She was really waiting for me to leave so she could finish up her work and all of that. But things like that, when people think about something that's
those things are most, yes.
and so those are the kind of things. Do you want to break the traditions, the norm? When I say traditions, there's certain traditions are good, but you want to get into things that are more impactful and
meaningful, yes,
to you and to others. And those are the types of things I think we can do when we're dealing with the stressors of the holidays, and you're dealing with those types of circumstances and situations. You want to be at a space and place where you are able to, be authentic, and people. And another part of this is that your family and friends respect where you are.
That's it.
You share where they are, and a lot of times we feel like, well, Don, you come on, go anyway. You should, come on and do this. We're trying to be helpful, but at the same time, this person is communicating to you where they are and what they're comfortable with at this point in time. And again, going back to what we said at the beginning, be patient. Give them the time to kind of go through and get through.
Well, that's powerful. I'm so happy I called you to come back on here to address it, because that is something we have to think about, and particularly during the holidays, all the time, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
But particularly during the holidays, and like you, my family and I, we've already talked. We're not doing all that commercial stuff.
Yeah.
And my children told me recently the most important thing to them is being with their family and eating good food. So listen.
Yeah. There it is.
So you gotta wean yourself off the commercial things and do what makes you happy.
Very much so.
Well, Dr. Lee, thank you so much for coming on and sharing again with us to inspire us to have a happy holiday and to keep our mental health intact.
Absolutely. There's one more thing I wanted to share, an upcoming event that's coming up in January. And it's actually, I think I mentioned last time, I work with an organization called Faith-Based Mental Health Initiative.
Yes.
And we are actually putting on another event, a significant event coming up in January 28th. And it's basically dealing with the support of mental health in regards to your faith. And we are in partnership with the state of Georgia to help create opportunities throughout all of the state with churches and mental health professionals to kind of help folks deal with the stigma of mental health and moving forward. So with that being said, there are several different events. The event is going to be at the Springfield Baptist Church in Conyers, Georgia. And it's going to be dealing with, we're going to have special guest artists there. One is very well-known artist there. His name is Jonathan. Let's Jonathan's last name. Trying to get it here. Here it is. and we're got my stuff messed up here.
Is it Jonathan Butler?
No. He's a here it is. I got the wrong Peter. Jonathan Nelson.
Oh yeah.
He's a
Vocalist.
gospel artist. And the event is going to call the significance of spirituality and emotional wellness. And the keynote speaker is going to be Dr. Hugh English, who is the Director of Partnership Center of U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Again, Jonathan Nelson. We're going to be dealing with the concepts of we have 3 partner churches. The Empowerment Counseling Group works with Dr. Tim at Boulder Crest Congregation, Dr. Lee at Springfield Congregation. We also have Greater Piney Grove that's there. All of us are going to be a part of it. I'm familiar with Shante Das. She's going to be a part of the event as well. Alani Kai, who was a radio announcer for WSB. She's going to be a co-host along with Chelsea Payne of Pain and Glory. So we got a lot that's going on. The goal is for us to be at a place where we can help people understand the power. We were talking about suicidal ideations before. Faith is one of the most significant protector factors for suicidality. So we encourage everyone. You'll see more information come out. I'll send some information to you.
Yeah, I'll get it out too.
Yeah, but I want everyone to just kind of come out and witness this amazing event that we're having, and then hopefully we can connect with some of the local churches and throughout the state to help you create a partnership with mental health, so we can help fight the mental health challenges that we have in our community.
Yay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Dr. Lee, how can people get in contact with you who need assistance with mental health or family counseling or any those type of things?
Okay. Well, again, I'm with Empowerment Counseling Group, and the way you reach me, first of all, you can go to our website at empowermentcounselinggroup.com, and there's an information sheet there that you can fill out. We have you can also see the various therapists that work with us, and you can see which one may work best for you. If not, just fill out the information, and we'll reach out and we'll figure out who's the best therapist for you. Also, if you are old school and you just want to make a phone call, just pick up the phone and call 404-244-6834. Again, the number is 404-244-6834. And just give us a call, and someone will reach back out to you and get you scheduled. But again, we just want to make, and also what we like to do, if you're in a crisis, if you're going through some type of crisis in the moment that you need immediate support, there's a new number that's out there for people in crisis. It's just 988. Just dial 3 digits, 988, just like you used to dial 911. Dial 988 for any mental health issue that's going on. That'll get you in your local crisis area. If you happen to be a veteran or military service member, press extension 1. It'll get you to the Veterans and Military Crisis Line. So please, if you need the support, let us know. We'll do the best we can to support you.
Y'all heard that, audience? No need to be sitting around depressed and going through something alone.
That's right.
Call Dr. Lee. Call that number, but do not go through challenging situations alone. Call a friend, call a family member you trust. But whatever you do, don't go through it alone.
Absolutely.
And like I say every week here on the Connecting Point, if you would like to be a part of this discussion, reach out to me at drmarcyts@gmail.com. We also have a group on Facebook, the Connecting Point for Creators group, of which Dr. Lee and many others are connected with. And it's just a platform for creators of all kinds. We're all creators, to connect and get support there and words of inspiration throughout the week. Also, this show airs on Tuesday nights on Instagram TV, YouTube, Facebook, On Wednesday nights, also, you can get it on KBCN TV. You can hear it on Spotify and Anchor. All that I ask is that you click, like, share. Share is the most important part so that other people can be listening. So until we meet again, peace and blessings. Thank you again, Dr. Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace and blessings, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.